Viewers advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today Brad and I are doing our top 10 fantasy games. And this one was a lot easier to put together than the science fiction one because I personally love fantasy more than science fiction.
I do too. I think there's some of my favorite games are science fiction, but I think there's more games I like fantasy.
Right. Like if you were to pick, like if games were to like come out on the market, I'd be more inclined to want to get the fantasy one. Now with the fantasy list, I went, because fantasy is very broad. I went with like your Lord of the Rings, your like mystical elves, so that's what I personally went with, like medieval stuff, like and I understand that you could argue a bunch of other stuff. You could argue that some science fiction games are fantasy.
Most of mine fit. Like there's gonna be.
I have maybe a few that aren't technically like your mystical elves and fairies.
Most of mine fit that. None of mine I would say are science fiction.
Okay.
Like they're all like.
Yeah, and
swords or wizards or something.
Yep.
You know?
That's pretty much what I went with. But
the races.
Same with the science fiction, because I'll probably upload both of these at the same time. Is I went with how much I like the games. Like obviously, because I had like 30 on the original list, and then I was like, okay, well, which one of these out of these 11, including honorable mention, which one of these has the fantasy theme, ooze out more, and then out of those 11, I put in order of how much I like them.
See, I did the same thing I did on my sci-fi. Some of my more liked games are lower on the list, but I put how much the fantasy comes out. So mine are ordered by how much fantasy I feel are in them.
Okay.
Over how much I like them. I like them all, obviously.
And that's fair. I think we will have 1, 2, 3, 4 crossovers.
You say 4? I say 1.
I say 9.
I say 1, 2, 3. I could say 4. I don't know if you're gonna put that. I'll say 3.
3. Okay.
Conservative.
Well, that's a lot better than the other one.
Yeah.
I know 1 for sure.
Unless I totally fucked my list over and forgot about something.
Well, I know one time you forgot about one particular game.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready to make a quick switch.
Anyway, so I'm very excited to talk about this one. So I'll start with an honorable mention. My number 11 is Small World.
Okay.
So Small World is it's a lighter game, a lighter area control game that basically will take a bunch of races, a bunch of fantastical ogres, trolls. I mean, obviously this is sci-fi, pixies and all that, but they will take those races that have their own special ability and give them like an adjective to pair up with that also has a special ability. So you can get like undead trolls, and that combination will be completely different than if it was like undead spirits, which is funny. And you'll just get a bunch of these different combinations that every game you're gonna be like, oh, and like what makes this game great is like you don't just have that for the whole game, because otherwise the game would be busted and it would suck. Is that each race, most likely, if like it's a really good ability, you're not going to get as many tokens, because every race will have a number of tokens. You'll place them out in different spots, then you'll gain money for having control over certain areas. But eventually, you'll run out of tokens to spread. You can kind of spread yourself thin, so you can put your race into decline, which means they're done. So then you have to grab a new race, and that's actually one of my favorite parts. It's like you get this really, and if people are like, oh, that's really good, at least they're not like deflated that you have it forever. They know eventually it's going to go away, and you could get a crappy race. But I really like to be like, this is really good. Oh, that one's also really good, and then you can bid for or you don't bid, you just grab it, but you have to pay depending on how far down the track is in. And I always like games where your points are also another resource. So if you're paying more, you're also losing points. Small World is just fantastic. Really, why it's an honorable mention is because like these other 10 games are just better.
For sure.
Like the Small World up there. Oh, it is. Hey, because these 3 games I was with Cry Havoc. I forgot about that one.
Small World was
on
on my list, when I compiled my list, but then when it got shaved
It
off.
got cut off.
Yeah, because I just haven't played it for
That's also
a long
fair.
time.
Yep. I played this one not too long ago, and it's funny whenever we say not too long ago because that was probably like a year ago.
Yeah.
But
It's been multiple years.
yep, that's my number 11.
All right, my number 11. I'm digging in the well from 1990.
You disgusting
Old school.
human being.
To be honest, this was one of my first games I owned. A cousin bought it for me for Christmas, and this game could almost single-handedly be why I have the collection I have now.
Okay.
And it's HeroQuest. The old HeroQuest from...
Oh, okay,
Bradley.
yeah. I was saying, I'm like, never played it.
Oh, it's so fun.
Is it?
I played it here recently, and
Okay.
I don't have mine anymore. But I played somebody else's copy at Changing Hands, and it holds up. It's just
Does it?
fun. Yeah, and a lot of it's nostalgic, you know, and stuff. But it's your classic, barbarian, wizard, elf, troll kind of thing, and it's a campaign game. You know, it's an all versus one.
Okay. Yeah.
One person has their big shield that has all the information on it.
Oh, like
There's-
a DM?
Yeah, kind
Okay.
of, and then there's a board that has all these like squares or rectangles or whatever, and there's a scenario book that
Mhm.
runs through the story, and then so everything looks plain, and as you would step into a room, then you would populate it with
Oh, okay.
3D furniture. They had like bookcases
Yeah.
and torture devices and all that stuff you put in there, and there'd be like little plastic chests and stuff. There'd be traps in them. It was old school,
It was back whenever the games that they made back then, they actually put effort into.
it was before
Like-
plastic prices got expensive.
Yeah,
too.
okay.
It's
Oh,
like-
that's what it was.
well, because like HeroQuest, or not HeroQuest. What's the one?
No, it's not Hero Realms.
The one
It
that
is-
has all the tiles.
Yeah,
X
I'm
tiles.
totally drawing a blank.
You know what I'm talking about, though.
HeroScape.
Yeah, HeroScape. They quit making that just because prices
Oh.
for plastic were so expensive. That's why they quit.
Because I remember
doing
I
it.
had HeroScape when I was a kid,
Right.
and then now I'm like, I actually ended up getting a really good, neat copy, but I was like, I don't want to set this up.
Yeah.
So I just sold it
But
immediately.
that's why they quit making it. It's just, and that's
Oh,
why because
okay.
plastic got so expensive. But anyway, I digress.
That makes sense.
But this game, it's just it brought me in because it was so simple to play. It was a roll and move for the most part, moving your movement and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd gain treasures, and then you would pump up your guy. Everybody had their own little paper sheet. You'd keep track of XP and everything
Yeah.
on it. Was, and then at the back of the book, there was even a way that I think it was Zoldan. I think was the name of the wizard guy that the one that has the
Mhm.
screen, and you can create your own
Yeah.
deals in it and stuff, and I went through and created all those and everything, They tried to do a Kickstarter, this one company tried to do a Kickstarter remake of it a handful of years ago, but then got sued because
Oh, wow.
they didn't even have the rights for
Oh,
it.
okay. Okay.
Because a lot of people backed it because,
They
know,
want it back.
but then they got the, I mean, obviously they can't Kickstarter and go through, but I'm still waiting,
Waiting for a
it's-
remake.
Well, and it's like, I'm waiting that what is it? What's the company? Restoration Games
Oh.
that remakes those 80s and 90s games. I think it'd be sweet as hell if they redid HeroQuest.
It'd be a good one.
And because I think there's enough 40-year-old nerds that
I think there'd be
would
enough
buy.
because, like, just the sheer amount of people who are, like, really good at writing and games that could
yeah.
make, like, a really solid HeroQuest.
But yeah, so
The best-
HeroQuest.
The best thing about HeroQuest is the Bardic broadcast. I think that's what his channel name is called. He did a video called "Why HeroQuest is so great," and it's hilarious. And I will have to show it to you because it's amazing.
Yeah, it's super game. I mean, you can still buy it, but you're gonna pay a nice expensive price for this game. But
Or if it's cheap, it's gonna probably be beat to hell.
well, and and it was one of those cheap Milton Bradley boxes, so
Mhm.
most of the boxes are because there wasn't any construction in the box,
Yeah.
so their lids are gonna be beat to hell and stuff. But if you can find a copy cheap, or if they decide to remake it, HeroQuest is an awesome fantasy game.
Alrighty. Number 10 is probably the most meta game on this fantasy list, but it is a game about a huge fantasy world, and it's Roleplayer. So, Roleplayer is a game. This is one that you forgot on one list before, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta re-add that. I'm assuming this would be on your list, but Roleplayer is you are making a D&D campaign, a D&D character. Like it's a dice drafting game, and you are rolling dice to be able to put into your slots, and you have cards that'll be like, okay, well you need to have strength of 16, and then all your characteristics are on these cards. You're trying to make your alignment a certain way to get points, and you're trying to basically draft the best way to make the best D&D character that you were randomly given. You can buy items that'll also give you bonuses and extra stuff that help in that. With the expansion, Monsters and Minions, instead of buying from the market, you can go fight and kill monsters for extra points, and then also learn about the big bad monster that one has to fight at the end. Roleplayer is a phenomenal game. I really, really love this game and love where they're going with it, because their next expansion is like, it's the Fiends and Familiars, which will just add more, and then their one after that is going to be Adventures. So they're just adding more and more of that, because in regular Roleplayer, it's like you made the character and then that was it. You're like, okay, well that's fun, because I one of my favorite parts about tabletop RPGs are making the characters. And so, but it's always really cool to do stuff with that character. So that now in the expansion, you can fight monsters, Fiends and Familiars. I don't know what that's bringing, but Adventure sounds like you actually go on campaigns with your made characters.
I think the Familiars, I think you're going to have things that will sit with you and help, like it'll give you an ability or something.
Okay.
And they're going to be people that you befriend.
Okay.
They're part of you. I don't know about
so
the
kind of like
Fiends
NPCs.
part. I don't know about the Fiends part.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But
yeah,
it'll be pretty neat.
It's going to be awesome. So Roleplayer is my number 10.
Alright, my number 10, my thing closed. It's way down number 10. I love this game. I know you like this game as well. There's the fantasy's light on it.
Okay.
It's Kingsburg.
Oh, okay.
It's-
Kingsburg was at least in my list
Right.
of things, but I'm like, no.
It's light. I mean, it's dice placement. A dice placement game where you're influencing kings, queens, jesters, people of the town.
Yeah.
To gather resources and all this stuff. You use those resources to build buildings to make your area of the castle or area of your town stronger. You can have wizards' towers. You can have all this stuff. Those are the light deal, but at the end of each year, you're going to be attacked by a mythical race. Usually mythical. The barbarians is one of them, but
Right.
usually it's going to be mythical races, whether it's orcs or zombies, whatever's coming at you, dragons. And you're defending yourself, and you play through how many years? 3, 4 years?
4 years?
Yeah, 4 years. Yeah, because there's 4 bad guys you go through. So each season, you do the gather resources, build, and all that stuff, preparing for the inevitable attack. It's a great, great, great game. Probably one of my favorite dice placement games. But the reason it's way down here is just because the fantasy is a little lighter on it.
It is pretty light. Mainly because it is fantasy, but feels like more just historically medieval.
Right.
But since there are like dragons and things that you might, I'd give it to you. It was one I considered.
Yeah.
It's just not on the list because the theme isn't oozing out.
Yeah, for sure.
And the expansion is a must.
Yes.
To Forge a Realm.
Well, if you buy the second edition.
If you buy the new one, you get it, and I'm pretty sure that's the only one you can buy. And I'm sure you can find the first edition.
One. Yeah, I have the first edition.
If you don't own first edition, then just buy second, so then you don't have to pay for the
Other than
expansion.
the art sucks on the second edition.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You can get over it.
My number 9 is a game that, once again, you will never, ever, ever play. In fact, I don't even think you would play it if I was the one teaching it to you. But I think I'm the only one in my game group that even likes this game.
It's Feudum?
It's Feudum. I would say Feudum is fantasy.
See, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, mainly because it is also whimsical fantasy. So you mentioned Kingsburg, and it kind of has that same ilk of like, yes, this is medieval, like nothing really about, well, that's not entirely true. But for the most part, nothing about it is like super fantastical because your guilds are alchemist, merchant, farmer, priest, and all those people. But yeah, there's also monsters that you can get to help fight for you, and like big weird looking monster. Then there's a sea monster. Then there's more monsters in the expansion, and then also some of the ships that you can buy are kind of fantastic, like a flying ship and stuff like that. So Feudum and the way that they portray it is also just very. I think, in my opinion, it was probably their downfall. Because if you were to listen to it or read it, you'd be like, oh, this is going to be super fun and funny. And then it's just this heavy strategy game that you're just like, could do a complete 180 on. But with Feudum, kind of the same argument that I was making with Vita Lasarda games or even Mind Clash games, that there's a lot of stuff going on that to actually play the game is relatively simple, but you just have to know what everything does to be efficient. Then they also do something that I appreciate in theory, but at times teaching the game is difficult because instead of just saying what like certain things are, they'll try to do the theme about it. It's just like, hey, instead of white cubes, it's saltpeter, or yellow is sulfur, and every color of cube has a certain thing, and green is food, and they're trying to just immerse you into the world, which works, but teaching the game, it's just like, hey, instead of me telling you, hey, you need to know what white cubes do, I need to tell you this is saltpeter because that's what everything's going to refer to. Stuff like that. But they have just so much going on. It sounds like when they were making the game that they just kept coming up with ideas and they just kept putting them in.
Right.
Like, but in my opinion, everything needs to be in it. I love the guild mechanism, how every guild is tied to one another, even from like knights all the way to the farmer. Like, they don't directly affect each other, but they indirectly affect each other. And you're trying to control these guilds, and you're trying to get the most points. Feudum, I think, is fantastic. They have a solo mode that I really need to try. This is probably the only way I'm ever going to get to play it. But they have so many expansions for it, but they're all small expansions. They just add, like, very little things. But they came in really big boxes, which was kind of dumb. But yeah, I really like Feudum. Kat absolutely hates it. Like, I'm pretty sure she'd rather play games that she hates over Feudum. So, that's my number 9.
Alright, my number 9 is my favorite go-to filler card game. You know what that is?
Oh, is it Eggs and Empires?
Yes, it's Eggs and Empires. This hits the fantasy chord mainly. I mean, this is a super simple card game. The races of the, not races, I guess, some of the characters in the deck that everybody has the same deck. There's some fantasy elements in it. You're trying to take these dragon eggs, mythical dragon eggs, and they're worth victory points or negative victory points. Most of the races are, blacksmith, scout, stuff like this, but there's the hero, and it's the huge dude with the sword. You have the dark priestess who's magical and all this jazz. And the mage character and all that stuff. You haven't played this yet, have you? See, I probably should have brought it too.
I always forget.
It is a super fun filler game. I mean, because like I said, everybody has the same 10-card deck. And it's kind of a bluffing thing because everybody plays out a card secretly. You flip it over, and there's a certain number of eggs. Like I said, some are negative, some are positive points. And then each card has a special ability, and then you go off in number order, starting with the highest number down, unless of course there's something weird with the abilities. And then you just, somebody gets the first pick of the egg. You get it, put it face down. And then sometimes you have to take the negative. And stuff, but you leave them face down, so people don't remember what you have, and re-deck it back out. You'll draw a few more cards from your 10-card deck, and you go. And once your deck is completely done, then that's that first round. You add up your total amount, subtracting the negatives. As your points are recorded, then you go to round 2. Do the same thing. Play 3 rounds, most points wins.
Yep.
But it's such a simple. I just picked this up on a whim for $6.
Yeah.
online.
I think I
one
probably
time.
just need to buy it.
And-
Otherwise I'll never get to play it.
And it plays up to 6 or 8.
Okay.
6 or 8, but the more it just gets nuts. the
Oh,
more
I
you play
bet. I bet.
and stuff, and it's a blast. And like it's a loose fantasy, and kind of like with my Star Realms of the last one, you know, it's kind of like it's, you could put any theme on it you wanted to. But,
That's true.
But it has the fantasy theme.
That's
so
true.
it
Awesome.
works.
Awesome. My number 8 is one of my favorite deck building games. That was one of the few that actually got me to start liking deck building, and that is Tyrants of the Underdark, which is also right there. Tyrants of the Underdark is fantasy because it's about Drow in D&D, so there you go. But what makes Tyrants of the Underdark great is not only does it do deck building really well, it does area control really well. Because what you do with most of your deck building is you are having, basically they're like your minions of your Drow family, and you're also getting help from like other creatures, and you're using them to send to areas on the board to actually just have influence and control it for points. This game is just, it's so solid because you take, I think you take 2 factions, and there's 6 in the game, and you take 2 of their decks and you shuffle them together, and that's your buy pool. So you're going to get a variety of just combinations that you can get once you pay for them. I mean, to typical deck building, you have the generic buyers and the generic fighters, and over time you'll just hopefully get rid of those and have the awesome creatures that allow you to do amazing things. And there's another aspect is you have a like inner circle that you can eventually put cards into, and they'll be worth points at the end of the game. Some are worth none while they're in your deck, but if you get them into the inner circle, they're worth 10,
Right.
or something like that. So it's kind of like has like that Elysium feel, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna put them into my Elysium, but so I'm not gonna get them anymore, but I'm gonna get points. So you have that aspect, but this game works very well as a solid deck builder. And the reason why I like this so much, and I've mentioned it multiple times before, but with deck building, there's just never any rhyme or reason why you don't get the cards immediately when you buy them. Like that's an example I gave not too long ago was, it's like if you went to Walmart and you're like, or a guitar shop and you're like, hey, I like to buy that guitar right there. Okay, you'll get it in 2 weeks. But it's right there. I can hold it. Yeah, no, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like that's how deck builders sometimes feel, but I've just learned to overlook that. But with Tyrants, in the rulebook, they explain why it takes them a while to come back, and I believe it was something along the lines of they're out on a mission, so they're by the time you get them is whenever they came back. Just something so simple just made the game that much more thematic.
Right.
But have you played Tyrants of the Underdark?
No, I have not.
So I might have to play that today because it is a really good game, and obviously fantasy because of just that theme.
Right.
Number 8.
All right, my number 8 I know is gonna be like really high on your list.
Is it?
Yep.
You don't know.
It is Summoner Wars.
You're right. I came around. It's my number 1.
Summoner Wars. It's fallen off for me a lot over the years, but when I come to a fantasy games list, it's every race and everything is fantasy about this game. It's elves, orcs, trolls. Everything is every race in it's fantasy, even though when you combine them and do everything, it's a 2-player skirmish. It's almost like a chess game in a way. It's like you win if you kill the other team's summoner, and there's these walls that they can summon creatures from and do all these different things. But it's a deck construction game too, because they came out with enough add-ons and stuff that you can pick which units go into your deck and stuff. You can kind of set that up, but it's dice based too, so your attacks are dice rolls.
So it makes me hate that game.
And so it was ahead of its time when it came out. I think a lot of other things have kind of surpassed it at this point, and they're not supporting it anymore. So it's
But they have a lot. They have what, 2 master sets or something for it?
There's the master set, and then there's the newer master set that has the mixed races.
Okay.
I can't remember what they call it, but so pretty much, I mean, you're just whacking on each other and trying to take out the other sorcerer or summoner. This game was the one that put Plaid Hat on the market because it was such a popular game. I still play the app.
Yeah.
But I played it so much that I kind of got burnt out because I play tested this game for years and stuff. But damn Phoenix Elves, those guys. But anyway, that's really it's mainly on here because of all the fantasy races. I mean, there's so many different races of stuff, and there's dragons in it, and all kinds of crazy creatures. So.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, I should like this game, but man, I really hate games where there's enough strategy there, but everything hinges on a die roll, and so no, I just last time I played this game, I was so fucking mad.
I mean, I went far enough as I bought each faction had their own set of customized dice, and I had as many factions as there are. I had every faction's set of special dice, and
I mean, I'm totally an outlier in not liking that one. All right, so number 7. My number so far no crossover, but I know one of them will be coming up on your list. I don't think this one is going to be on your list because I don't think either you've never played it or you just never got that into it. And this one came out. I'm also pulling from the 90s, 93 to be exact. So it is as old as I am, and that is Magic: The Gathering.
I've played it.
Have you played Magic? Okay. Didn't know if you ever got into it.
I never played it competitively.
Gotcha.
I've played it.
I've never played it in competitions because I just get destroyed and I don't have $6,000 to drop on the deck. So, Magic: The Gathering, funny enough, used to be a game that I absolutely hated, but as of late, I really like it. I play Magic as mainly Commander, which is you have a Commander card and then it's 99 card decks. The reason why I like Commander so much is that because with Modern and Standard, they're just the meta is win turn 2 and stuff like that, and it's like, oh yeah, that's exciting. Will I spend all this money to just be like bam, 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 and I win? So in Commander, the games take longer, and you just have so many just big swings of awesome moves, and it just feels really really good. So Magic, I mean, there's a whole fantasy world set around it, but the theme, to my knowledge, is that you, as a player, are a planeswalker that is fighting other planeswalkers, and there's lore behind, who's evil and who's not, and then there's demons and Eldrazi, which are the ancient ones, and evil planeswalkers, and then there's Nicola Bolas, which is like a dragon, and he was a planeswalker, and there's just this huge thing that I really want to read up on because what I do know is really exciting. But yeah, so a lot of the things that you do, your deck is supposed to be your knowledge as a planeswalker, very loosely, because it's like, well, if that's my knowledge, then why can't I cast a spell that I should know? Kind of like Mage Wars. Did you ever play Mage Wars where you had your spell book?
I played it once.
Yeah, so it was kind of more convoluted. Yeah, it was really clunky. But with Mage Wars, what I really liked was everyone had a spell book, and you could be like, oh, I think I'll play this one. Yeah. That was really neat. But Magic: The Gathering, I really like it. I play casually Modern, but I proxy all my cards. I literally just print it off a list.
I was going to ask you, on a Commander deck, is there any deck construction, or do you have to use what's in the
Oh, no, you completely build your...
You build it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You can buy Commander decks.
I know there's some you can buy, I know. But
yeah, they did a 2018 Commander deck, and there was 4 that you can release, or 4 that you could have bought, and I've played all of them. And they're actually pretty solid. Funny enough, I used to have so many decks. I had just a life gain deck where I just had... It was almost unimpossible for me to have over 100 hit points. And then I had cards that would be like, if your life total is over 50, you automatically win. So, but I sold a bunch of them, and now I have three decks. And one of them was actually, I had the pre-constructed deck, and then I just basically rebuilt that. Right. And it's actually one of my best decks. But yeah, so it has deck building. I guess no, it's deck construction, and I really like Magic. But like I said, I don't play competitively.
Right.
All my friends I do play with, they don't care that I'm proxying, because like the deck I'm probably proxying out is probably $1,000, but they don't care because I'm not actually competing against them.
Right.
So that's my number 7.
All right, my number 7 is probably another one up on your list.
Ooh, oh, are you lying this time?
It's Arcadia Quest.
God. Okay.
Arcadia Quest. It is your Simon fantasy delight as far as chibis go. It's what's cool about it is it's not co-op at all. You run through campaign. In order for it to be over, you have to. There's I think three objectives, because there's a PvP objective. You have to kill at least one player
Usually
from another deal.
PvP. No, there's all 4 people. Well, it depends on how many players.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's usually 2 objectives throughout the mission that you're trying to do, but you have to at least get a PvP kill as one of them. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of characters you can choose, depending on what mission. Some of them may seem worthless, but then they're the perfect fit for one mission. So you just kind of make up your team of people and go for it.
Yep.
See what happens.
Yep.
It's short campaigns, which is another thing I like about it.
6 games.
Right. So it's not like these long, convoluted deals. Usually you can get a campaign finished in a couple of sittings, really, if you just make that your whole deal. There are characters that are stronger than others more consistently, but it is what it is at that point. But the production of it's wonderful. I sold my Inferno, just because I haven't touched it.
Yeah.
People were still paying a premium for it, and I get enough enjoyment out of the base and the Beyond the Grave and all that stuff. But it is obviously fantasy.
Yeah.
You've got all the beasties, and you've got wizards, and you've got
your warriors.
Your
like
characters are kind of loosely based on, like Simon does, on real people.
Right.
And stuff like that. It's kind of the whole silliness of that.
Yeah, and I mean, you have your character creation, at least in the campaign, where you just slowly get more and more powerful cards. Which, I mean, I did like that. I did like the fact that your guilds were going to be completely unique.
Right.
And you obviously build around the strength of the special ability of your characters. Starcadia Quest, I think, will be interesting since you don't have 3 people, you'll have 2.
That is what I'm looking forward to.
Because there was always, like, at least everyone, because I've done a series for it on the channel, everyone always had one person that was just shit. Like, it was just like, oh, God.
Well, that was always the target of the PvP, too. So, so like, when you have the 2, I think it's going to be, they're both going to be badasses.
Yeah. So,
so.
It could be better, but yeah. I mean, I don't hate Arcadia Quest by any means. I've come around to it. I think the reason why I like it is we just bum rushed that campaign, and since it is kind of very luck heavy, I just kind of felt that if you did well on one, you were going to kind of continuously do well, because you're going to get the special items, or... Because if you win one, then you'll get an advantage at a separate one.
Right.
So it's like, well... Like, lucky you got it, so now you're just going to do better everywhere else.
My biggest thing with this game is I wish, and they keep putting out these expansions and these other sets and everything, and it's starting to get out there. Like, the Inferno was not nearly as good as the other stuff.
Right.
I wish they would come out with, even if it was a few more cards or however they wanted to do it, and make a pure co-op campaign.
Oh, that'd be neat
for this game. Some of the Inferno, like the dragon sets, those are co-op.
Okay.
But I wish they would come out with a co-op way of just a campaign co-op, just all the way through. Take away the PvP and run pure co-op. That way it could be ran solo.
Yeah.
It could be and stuff like that. It obviously has to be harder.
Right.
Because the campaign is pretty easy.
Yeah, what makes it hard is the PvP.
Right, but if you make it a harder campaign, but beef up the guy, maybe I don't know how you do it, if it was just to get more cards out there or whatever, but that would be awesome if they could do something like that.
That would be really cool. They're not going to.
No, they won't.
Arcadia Quest is coming out.
I'm ready for that though, so let's give it a shot.
Awesome. Number 6? Are we on number 6?
Yep.
My number 6 should be higher on your list. If it's not, I'll be surprised, but it's my favorite deck building game, and that's Aeon's End.
That's mine too.
Oh, number 6? Great, okay, cool. So, so Aeon's End is, there's one crossover.
Yep.
Aeon's End is, it's such a good deck building game, and I also think thematic, where you are a breach mage. So there's your fantasy, your magicians that are fighting, what they call them nameless, but they're like creatures that are attacking your stronghold. And you're going to be basically spending, gems to be able to purchase and basically harness stronger spells that'll go into your deck, and then you'll just use them to fight off minions that the nameless are sending out, and then also attack the nameless directly. Each nameless plays completely different and makes you like, I honestly believe you could have the same 9 cards, and then you'll do different combos against each nameless. So they do a couple things different with this, is that instead of just spending your hand to do stuff, you have to prep spells. And then, so you can't cast spells the same turn that you prep them, so you have to wait a turn. And then also, whenever you buy when you buy cards, you order your discard pile, because when your deck runs out, you flip your discard pile, so you can stack your deck in a way that makes it, that you know what's coming up. So, for some reason, every time I play, I always have like a really good hand, then a shitty hand, then a really good hand,
right.
And then I spit everywhere because I'm just so excited talking about Aeon's End. This was one of the few, this one and Tyrants, that both kind of really got me into deck building. So yeah, like Aeon's End, it always feels like your back is up against the wall, but you still have a chance.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, it's nuts. Like, I haven't played Legacy yet.
It's okay.
But I'm mainly gonna play it for the good cards,
yeah,
for the game and stuff. But we have the Into the Wild. Is that the new one, or what?
The new
like one we just kickstarted.
Couldn't tell you. You can go and talk about your favorite stuff about it. While I look it up.
There's just so many creatures you have to go up against. I mean, it's nuts. Like, and it seems like, because I've played through some games solo, and it's tough. It's a hard game. Okay, and then Into the Wild is one of the small expansions that come in. Okay. But anyway, I remember the very first time I ever played this game, came down to a 1-card flip. It was us two playing.
It was their turn order.
Yeah, it was a whole turn order thing, which is a cool thing about it too, because there's a little, it's a random turn order, so each player will have 1 or 2 cards, I think depends on player count. And then in a
2-player game, you'll have,
I think it's 2.
I think it's,
2
or 2 wilds or something like that, yeah.
And then there's 2 monster cards.
There'll always be 2 nemesis cards, yeah.
And you shuffle them up, and then you just flip. And it's like, oh, you may go 2 in a row. You might go first, and you might go last.
Yeah.
But in our game that we came down to, it was like, okay, there's a card here, 2 cards.
Yeah.
If this is the bad guy, he's gonna do enough damage to win.
Yeah.
If it's Seth's card, we're gonna win. It have to be, and that happens a lot with this game. It's the play testing and of this game has to be nuts. For it to come down that.
It's almost that wire every time, because
I don't blow people out. Like, anytime I've ever played it, I either lose small or win small.
In the run through, it was another thing where it's like, okay, if he goes, we'll lose. If there's just so much strategy in this game. I love it, and that's why it's our number 6 for fantasy.
Yep.
So I guess I'll move on to number 5. So my number 5 is a game that I know you really want to play, and I even thought about having it set up, but watched Avengers Endgame instead, and didn't want to set this up afterwards. And that is War of the Ring.
Yep.
So War of the Ring, obviously fantasy because it's Lord of the Rings in a box. It's a 2-player game where one person plays the Shadow People, the other person plays the Free Peoples, and you are, as a Shadow People, you're trying to get 10, you can get 10 conquest points, or you can corrupt the ring bearer up to 10, and that's how they win. The free peoples have to get 4 conquest points, or get the ring bearer to Mount Doom and throw the ring in Mount Doom and win that way. So, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and this is Lord of the Rings in a box, just like Star Wars Rebellion is Star Wars in a box. And what makes this game so great is there's so much like what if scenarios, that you can all play it very straight, where it's like, yep, okay, well I'm gonna attack Gondor, and then Gondor's gonna defend, but you can also, as free peoples with expansions, be like, well, what if the ghosts, can't remember what they're called, but off the top of my head. No, not the race, but like the ghosts that Aragorn. Because those are a faction that you can get in the latest one. Yeah, what if they actually came by and helped like fight the wow, dear God, I guess I'm not that big of a fan.
I forgot. I know
the Southerners, the South Rings, and like the people on the elephants.
Yeah.
But you can do stuff like that. Or what if Gimli left the party earlier on to go, get the dwarves and bring the dwarves down to help? There's just so much. What if the Balrog? Because in one of these, what if the Balrog left the Mines of Moria and actually helped fight for Sauron? There's just so much that you could do in this game that make it a Lord of the Rings epic. And if you have Hunt for the Ring, which is a hidden movement game where people play the Nazgul hunting Frodo, you can actually play that game, and then the way that game ends, you can actually tie that into War of the Ring, and you can just have a full Lord of the Rings gaming day, which is awesome. I love this game so much. I don't have the collector's edition for 600.
So you should start then with Battle of the Five Armies, then play Hunt for the Ring.
Oh, I guess that. Well, was Battle of Five Armies before?
Yeah, because it was Hobbit.
Oh, you're right. It is the Hobbit. Yep.
They wouldn't bleed into each other though.
No, they wouldn't. And Battle of Five Armies is trash anyway. So, a lot of people hate the political track in War of the Ring. Everyone's like, Battle of Five Armies is great because you can just fight. It's like, yeah, well, if it was balanced, it'd probably be better. But I like the political track because it actually gives more weight. You're like, because if the people are gonna, because the elves and everyone are like, well, we don't want to fight. That's your guys' shit. Then it's like, okay, well, you can have Legolas leave and go talk to the elves and get them ready for war and move them down. Because he's like, hey, that's not a good thing. It's just an epic fantasy Lord of the Rings game, and I love it. That's my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is a fairly new game I've gotten into over the past 6 months or so. And it skates that line. It's definitely fantasy. It also could be a little horror.
Okay.
It's not what you think it is.
It's Shadows of Winter.
No. It's Village Attacks.
I would call that fantasy.
Well, because, you're playing monsters. You control monsters.
Right, but you're playing...
But the heroes coming in are fantasy heroes that are coming into your castle that you're defending against.
Are they not just regular villagers?
Well, there's villagers compiling in, but then there's also heroes
that
come in, and they're all they're super powerful.
Yeah, but you're playing fantasy monsters.
You are. That's why I said it skates the line. I got on BGG and looked at it, and it had fantasy as one of the keywords. That's why I justified it.
I was wondering if this was going to be on your list.
So this game, I probably should have brought it today because I think you guys would like it.
You think?
Because it's pure co-op. And everybody takes on the role of a monster. Like they have really crazy names. Mine's pretty much the Headless Horseman.
Oh, okay.
But
that's cool.
He has his model's cool because he's carrying his head,
and
then he has this sword. It's got the hilt of a sword and everything, but it's a spinal cord.
Oh,
that goes around. That's and stuff, and that's his model's got this huge deal, and
that's neat.
And there's not Balrog. There's Baba Yaga, the forest witch. And there's just all these monsters that you've heard about in the past with stuff, and you control them. And it's tower defense.
Yeah.
More or less. It's your castle, and the villagers are trying to come in and get rid of you, and it's a scenario based game, so campaign, but scenarios.
Yeah.
So you're protecting your castle. There's the heart of your castle, and you're protecting it, and you're gaining stuff, and you're just killing these poor innocent people to keep getting about.
That is true. Isn't it weird how you switch mindsets? Normally you play the heroes.
Right.
But yeah, it's like these are just villagers with wives and kids, and you're just like Headless Horseman just spine whipping them to death.
There's like the fisherman is coming in. Oh, slap his head off. You know. But I play this game solo with two bad guys or two good guys, two monsters. A lot of times, but what's cool is they went into, because this was a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And on the back of your creature is the whole history of what the monster stuff. It's somebody you don't know about. But you unlock, as you gain XP for killing things, you can unlock stronger versions of your abilities.
Yeah.
And what's cool is it's got the mechanics with your dice. Like you roll your hand, I think it's 5 dice. Yeah, 5 dice. And then those are the actions you can do. Right? So like this symbol has here, so you can place it on your character board that has that symbol, and that'll let you activate that ability and stuff like that. So it's got all these different things. So it's not, there is a little bit of randomness in there that you may not be able to, but there's ways to...
But I'd rather have that than
Right.
being, I can do everything.
Right.
Oh wait, no, I can't because the dice didn't go
Right.
my way.
But it's...
Because War of the Ring does the same thing, where you have, you have dice and you roll, it's like, okay, these are the actions I got, let me see what I can do with this.
But what's awesome is it's like, especially, because the first time I played this, we did 4 players. This game was Chad's at one time.
Oh.
And I bought it off of him. But it's cool because it almost got the Spirit Island thing, because you've told the story about Spirit Island where somebody shoved somebody into the water and then the water becomes a drown. This has the same thing. It's like, the Headless Horseman guy's ability is to attract people, push people away, or freeze them, not let them move.
Okay.
So you can you scare these guys stiff, and then just
have a wraith come in and just eat them.
I mean, it's so cool. The minis are so awesome. It's really the only game this company's done, but it's just badass.
Yeah.
And the 3D traps because that's another thing you can do. You can set traps.
Okay.
In your castle. Obviously tower defense, so you can set spike walls or the rolling ball, but in the Kickstarter they came out with the plastic 3D models of those traps.
Oh,
you can
neat.
set there, which kind of looks neat.
Neat.
But no, it's a really cool game. We need to play it sometime, but
for sure.
It was way under the radar.
I actually have heard of a negative with this game, and this was Rado, so take this with a grain of salt because these are not really his kind of games.
Right.
Surprised he did a run through for it, but he said that it almost has a semi-cooperative feel because how you upgrade your abilities is how many you kill. So if I'm killing more people than you, then you're not leveling up, but I am.
Well, and that's a good point. That's true. But when we were playing our 4-player game, we took that into account.
Okay.
Because the casual's not big. Like your map's not huge, so you can get to where. So it's like because you have Nemesis.
He did say that.
Think of the bottom, like it has those things that Simon started doing, like the things that go on the bottom of your miniatures.
Yeah, the little clips.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like.
I
may be the purple or whatever. So then there's these. The Headless Horseman's the Nemesis, so they're gonna have the purple. So any of those purple guys coming, you get more points for killing them.
Oh, yep, okay.
And they're more deadly against you. But you can also. There's been times we were just kind of like, I would lure them so they could kill them to level up.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's a hard game. It's not an easy game, and you have to let people lure people in and let them kill them to get power up, so you guys can. So yes, whereas that is true, you still have to work as.
I'm assuming, since it's still a team, it probably isn't. It probably doesn't leave a sour taste in people's mouths, where it's like, because if it was semi-cooperative, it's like, oh well, I'm secretly getting more points. Because,
I mean, there could be a jackass that wants to do that. I mean,
that's true. You just don't play with them.
Yeah.
All right, cool. My number 4 is a game that I'm sure you thought was going to be my number 1, and it's.
I could probably take a guess at what it is.
It's kind of sad that it's not my number 1 anymore. Talisman is my number 4.
That's what I was going to guess.
Talisman is my number 4, mainly because literally these other 3 are just so fucking good. So Talisman is probably the epitome of fantasy. Like, I would argue that everything fantasy is in Talisman.
It's fantasy Monopoly.
No, it's not. The only thing Monopoly about it is it has an edge. And you roll to move around the edge. But there's 60-something characters that are all fantastical warrior. Then there's, well, some of them actually kind of aren't, because there's like a swashbuckler, but then there's like a mutant, or you could be a troll, or a wizard, or a priestess, or just so many, a dragon rider, just so many different characters you can be that have special abilities that correlate to who they are. Then you move around a fantasy board and just have a bunch of stuff just happen. Like you can go into the Highlands, which just has what?
I was going to say, you get to roll fantasy dice. And keep going past your
And go your fantasy hub. you could do that. But I mean, like they just have like a bunch of different, fantasy places that you can go to, and then there's an expansion with dragons and the Woodlands, which is all mystical and deals a lot with fate. A dungeon that you can go into to go fight the dungeon lord, and the city that has just a bunch of fantasy shops that you can go into, and then you go on you can take your fantasy. Yeah, just it has everything in it that just oozes fantasy to me. I think it's thematic because like whenever you go, because places will pop up and they'll be they'll stay there, so you can go visit them and do stuff at those locations. And like you can meet strangers that like in one of them in the Woodlands you can actually find Baba Yaga. It's not a good thing
right.
when you do it, but you can. There's also a little bit of PvP. If you land on their spot, you can fight them and try and kill them, and if you kill them, then you can take all their stuff, and by the end of it you're going to have, unless you die, just a bunch of mystical items, like a legendary flaming sword, or some like lucky rabbit's feather, just something that is fantastical. I love Talisman. It like, even though it's moved down my top 10 because it was my number 1 for so long, and fantasy it's at number 4. Like I will never get rid of this game. Like I love it. I love it. So that's Talisman. I mean, because they also have werewolves and the Grim Reaper and all that other stuff. And there are expansions that aren't fantasy. Like I would really call the Firelands expansion, which adds like Ifrits and all that. I wouldn't really call that. Well, I guess that is kind of fantasy, but it's not your typical fantasy.
Right. I've only played the app.
Yeah, I hate the app.
I mean, that's the only way I've played it.
That one, I've tried it because I'm like, I love Talisman so much, I'll try the app. I do not like it. I don't get immersed. Like, I'm literally just clicking shit just to move along. But when I'm playing the board game, I'm really into everything that's going on.
Yeah, I've played Relic.
Relic is good too. It's just, I don't know Warhammer 40k as much, so I couldn't get drawn in. But Talisman also has alternative endings that you once you get to the middle, or it has revealed endings which give people more of a goal throughout the game. Love it so much. That's my number 4.
Alright, my number 4 is our second crossover.
Ha ha! Is it Roleplayer?
It is Roleplayer.
Sweet!
For the same stuff you said, I mean, when I played the base game of this to start with, I really enjoyed it because it was super simple. It made you think. You were creating a character, which is something that I enjoy doing as well. But then the Monsters and Minions expansion jacked it up that much more.
Yep.
Made it to where you actually feel like you're using your character a little bit. With the Fiends and Familiars is going to add something. I don't.
I'm
really
sure.
know
I'm sure it will.
It will be. When was the Kickstarter for that? I told you it was at some point.
Was it 2019?
Yeah, it was sometime like summer.
I was gonna say April, but that's not true.
Anyway, and then we possibly play testing adventures today, so which will let you actually use your fully created character and actually go on adventures with them.
Yep.
And do a campaign with them. So it's just, they just keep building and building and building, and without adding too much.
Right.
Because the Monsters and Minions didn't convolute it at all. It's just, it added one more little pile of cards. You could, instead of buying something, you could attack a minion.
Yep.
Instead, and then you're just building up to use your character towards the big baddie at the end.
And even the bad boss, it's not like some convoluted way to fight it.
No.
It's just like, okay, well, I can do this because it has 3 different weaknesses
Right.
that you can find out from killing certain things. I love that they added. I don't remember if this was in the base game or if it added from the expansion, but they added like armor sets.
That was the base game.
Was a base game.
Yeah.
But it was nice because, like in the base game, it's like, well, I don't really want to buy anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. And now when you run into that, you're like, oh, I guess I'll go fight. But then there's times where it's like, oh, I want to fight, but man, I also really want to buy that. It's solid.
And like I told you, they have a playmat for this, but I'm waiting until the Familiars comes out because I don't want there to be a new deck space.
Yeah.
And not have a spot because
that's
I
always
want the
annoying.
playmat for it. But metal coins, wooden inserts.
Oh yeah, I have the wooden insert
Yeah,
now.
you have the wooden and the metal coins.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep. But
So
I'm excited.
yeah, it's a great game.
Cool. My number 3 is a game that I'm currently. Oh, it's not on the channel yet. It'll probably be on the channel before this one is. But it is Kingdom Death Monster. Is my number 3.
Yeah.
I have all the minis right there. Up at the top. Kingdom Death Monster is a game that I have been wanting to play for a long time, but never wanted to shell out the $400 for it. So luckily, my gaming group up here, we actually went in on it. Like, it was me, my friend Josh, and my friend Devin. You've seen both of them on the channel. They actually pitched in, so we all put in like 133 to get the copy and play it together. This game is awesome. Like, it is fantastic. Like, so in Kingdom Death, it's actually, in Kingdom Death, you are survivors that wake up in this shithole of a world, and have to fight these creatures for survival, and you build your own settlement, and you just go on hunts, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of like a more gruesome and depressing Monster Hunter, the video game. So you have your own unique hunter that can get disorders, that can get a bunch of different armor sets, and you go on a track and do some hunt events until you finally find the monster. Then you fight him, and the hunts for these monsters are so freaking cool because each monster has their own attack deck that, depending on the level you choose to go hunt, will have random cards. It will have so you'll never know what it's going to do, but also what it does is whenever you attack them and you hit them, they have their own reaction deck, which is neat because instead of just being like, I hit you, like you can actually reveal, and then something could happen. Then you roll the wounded, and so the reaction could be like, it'll do something, but if you roll a critical, then all that goes away and you can do a critical to it. Like, I kid you not, for the first year that we actually recorded, because we played it goes through Lantern years. And we did the first one just to learn the game, but the second one we actually recorded. We were going to go hunt the white lion, and you start the game with a glass shard that you can throw, and it'll automatically do a critical hit, but it's one-time use.
Right.
So we go to hunt this lion. We finally find it, and we're circling it, and it actually, throughout the hunt events, it started out like pounced and like ready. So if you ran into its circle, it was just gonna do some wicked amount of damage until it got hit. Then it would, that area wouldn't do anything. So at first, my friend was he searched in a pile of grass, actually found a weapon because he forgot to go in with one, and he was gonna run into it. And I'm like, dude, this thing is gonna roll 8 dice to hit you, which will most likely just completely obliterate you. So we backtracked it, and Kat still had her shard. And I was like, okay, well, so she used it. I picked up the reaction deck. I'm like, all right, I need you to roll a d10. And I knew what was going to happen because obviously I read it. And she rolled, it landed on a 10, and I'm like, he's dead. And everyone was like, because they think I'm fucking with them.
Right.
I'm like, nope, you literally hit it in the heart and killed it immediately. This hunt's over. And you get resources, and you go after the hunt, you go to the settlement phase where you can get innovations to make your settlement better. You can go and use the resources you find to get better armor. I think this game is fantastic, and I have a lot of bosses. We've only ever fought the lion, but even if you fought the lion over and over, which you would think sounds get really old, because of the different levels, which add different cards,
Right.
and the different reactions, it's going to feel different. But over time, story events will happen to make it even more exciting. Then you can go fight other things, and I just look up there like this is literally one of the expansions. Like this guy. This is the Dragon King. Like, I don't want to fight this.
No.
So it's or this thing right here. This is Gorm. It's a baby head and it has a butthole. Just so you know, and it has balls and it actually has a penis too. So, like, yep, that's there. So this is another thing you can fight, and it's like you look at these monsters. And another cool thing, one, you have to put all the menus together, which I think you would actually like.
Yes.
But, so that was actually a lot of fun. I see what you mean when you say it's like kind of therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of fun putting those together, except for a few where it's like, that's fucking sick! Where was I going with that? Oh, throughout the game, you will get armor sets and different epic moments and stuff that you will build your minis. Like, so you can change it. So, since Kat was the one that auto-killed the lion, we're gonna alternate her mini to, like, have some lion armor on it. So, over time, you can actually feel unique. But, it's amazing. We are all loving it. That's my number 3, Kingdom Death Monster. Fantasy, obviously. I mean, it's not your typical fantasy,
right.
but it is. So, that's my number 3.
Alright, my number 3, going from a big grandiose fantasy down to probably one of my favorite games I've played this year. In the fantasy deal is Hero Realms.
Okay.
Talked about Star Realms in the sci-fi list, Hero Realms in this list. It's supposed to be a 2-player competitive go at 'em. If you just buy the basic deck or basic box, you don't even really have a role. You're just buying stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have a classification.
Right.
They had five or 6 hero packs come out. Really cheap. It's their own little deck. They had like the fighter, the sorcerer, cleric, thief. I can't remember what the other one was. And that made it more. If you're playing competitive, I'm gonna be a fighter now.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of gave you that, and it has, like I said, their own special deck that they start with. So it made it really cool that way, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what really amped this up was an expansion called The Ruin of Thandar. It turned this game into you can play it co-op with up to 4 players.
Okay.
It's co-op or solo, kind of like the Frontiers that I was talking about with
Star Realms.
Star Realms.
Okay.
This is done so much better though.
Okay.
Because it's an actual campaign, a really short campaign. And then here in like a month or 2, the next campaign box is coming out.
Oh, neat. Okay.
So it adds a storyline like this book, and you get to make choices, and
Okay.
you gain things depending on which choice you make, and if you defeat the bad guy at the end of that story deal, each of you can choose something to go into your deck special, and plus you're buying stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that pops out there and everything. It's just, and they have the ability where they have a deck, they're tossing stuff out, and it does damage to you or whatever their ability is. It turns it into such a cool, simple to set up deck builder.
Okay.
Now, that I play solo a ton,
Yeah.
and I've played it with my pair at school too, 2-player co-op on it, and it's just really neat, and I like this so much even more than Star Realms because I like the theme of it, and everything's pretty badass in it, with the stuff that you pick up and buy, and I can't wait for the next campaign expansions to come out because it'll be an insta buy because it's lovely.
Yeah, I've heard Hero Realms with those expansions are way better, and I have the base game, and I don't even know where it's at.
Well, I'll tell you before. That is one thing before you play the campaign deck. You have to have those decks.
Right.
You have to have the character decks, at least
Yeah.
one if you're gonna play solo. But
Yeah.
but you have to have those before you do the campaign deals.
Okay.
And it has a cool little way of keeping track of where you're at in the deal, and it's just a little booklet, But yeah, it really surprised the hell out of me because I bought it just cheap just to have a solo little deck builder.
Right.
And it just took off, and it's awesome.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. Great. My number 2 is most likely your number 1, which is kind of similar to Kingdom Death Monster. Funny number 3, 2, and 1 are huge games. So it's not similar in theme. It's just that this is not your typical fantasy, and it's folklore. The Affliction. What? Did you forget it?
no, I didn't put it on there because I consider it a complete horror.
No.
Because if you look it up on BGG, it's not a fantasy. It's not one of the
This is a
keywords.
fantasy game.
So I mean, I could see it anyway. I didn't put it on my list because
Wow.
like
okay.
it is horror is what it's.
I would not
listed
call. I
as.
mean, if you were going to call that horror, then you could call literally any fantasy game horror.
I know, and I was just going off of BGG keywords.
Gotcha.
So.
So Folklore of the Affliction is another epic, grandiose. I say fantasy because, I mean, everything in it is fantastical. Like, you have spells and you have, it's just your European fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, yeah, all your people, let me think of the characters. Like, yeah, none of them are, like, a different race. They just have different, like, occupations.
Right,
so
right.
as far as I know, there's no, like, elves or dwarves. It's just like
No, they're humans.
they're all
but,
humans,
like,
but like there's a
but
witch hunter.
Yeah, there's one that has the wizard abilities.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. Oh, the magician. The
Yeah.
there's the illusionist that I play
what's
as.
the one with the girl that does the?
No idea. There's a lot though.
It might be in Dark Tales.
And so with folklore, like you are this group of people that are each story in or each chapter in a story, you're going to fight some affliction, which could be a werewolf, or it could be the Necronomicon, or it could be, and you'll fight things along the way that are just these epic monsters, and every story. I think they're starting to connect. At least it feels like they are, but they feel kind of standalone. So you're always going to fight an affliction at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes this game really, really great is, one, the afflictions and even the enemies all have a pretty good AI system. Like, they're going to do normally what they do, but they all have special abilities, and when they attack you, depending on what they roll on a particular die, will depend on which attack they do. It's a different fantasy. Like, and that's why I also really like it, because there's vampires, and there's ghouls, and undead.
That's why I didn't. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I could have easily put it on here too. It's just I had such a laundry list of games. I went more for.
Because I mean, technically, then Kingdom Death is horror.
Yeah.
It's not fantasy.
Right.
Like Aeon's End, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, but those are. It's. That's why
Right.
these lists are so loose. There's gray areas.
Right.
And like I said, I could have easily put.
Because pretty much, like, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, well, in like, the illusionist, for example, has one of his powers that's literally electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, that's magic.
Right.
Like, so.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't disagree. I mean,
right. I'm just arguing my case, not against you, but I'm sure someone will be like, no. They may not. I don't
that's
know.
why I ended up using BGG keywords for a lot of these, because I had a lot.
Gotcha.
Because like Village Attacks, I was thinking it was going to be more horror too. When I typed it in, it had fantasy as its keyword,
That's
and
so
folklore
weird.
never had it. So I was like, well, I'll just go ahead and take folklore
Yeah.
off.
Well, that's weird.
And-
Well, at least, okay, because my number 1 is not going to be on your list, so
No,
that's
I
2
won't, 'cause I
crossover.
hate the hand management.
So folklore, I think, is fantastic. I love the combat in this game. Everything, it just drips in theme. I love how your character, you pick basically a side that you want. Sometimes it's a little fiddly with some things, but for the most part, I love the percentile attacks on it. Like the group, we're absolutely loving it. Like, we have the Madman, we have the Exorcist, we have the Witch Hunter, and the Illusionist. So we have a pretty solid group. I love the town aspects. I love it. Almost feels like a little D&D.
Yeah.
Because when you're going through the story, it's like, hey, make this check, and you'll roll, and it's like, oh, well, great, I'm good at trickery, so this will help a lot. So it's a solid game. Each you have the big map. I actually really hate that play mat.
Yeah.
Because it's big for no, like you don't do anything.
Well, I like it. I'm gonna start using mine a lot more because with this latest Kickstarter, we got that one thing unlocked. Did you notice that? One of the big complaints.
I never look at
one of the big complaints
anymore.
with it is because people wanted a different marker to move around on the board instead of just that white. On that big map, that white marker is so tiny.
Yeah.
They move around. There's a metal tome sitting on a deal now.
Okay.
That metal, it was at 500,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you get to use that as your party.
Okay.
I think it's a big metal piece that'll work better on that map.
There we go. Okay.
So,
yeah, the only Kickstarter that I've been sticking with lately is the new Bloodborne.
I knew you were gonna be back.
I'm pretty sure I was at least top 10. I may not have been, but like once it was like 2 o'clock, I'm like back.
Yeah.
But anyway, Folklore is fantastic. If you're tired of the typical fantasy, check out Folklore because it's different folktales.
I'm excited for the minis box too.
Oh my god, the
That's
vacuum
so
seal.
awesome. Well, I think they're going to do like they did because the first edition Kickstarter, they had the vacuum seal things and they had a piece of paper printed that set on top that showed where the minis go.
Oh, that's
and I
nice.
think I haven't checked to see if they're going to do. I would assume since they did that first edition, they'll do that. Each drawer will probably have that when you pull it out where the minis go.
It's so nice.
I can't wait.
What makes this one so they have a few blunders, but also really their biggest blunder is their stupid vitality and PowerPoint tracker. Like whoever came up with that idea should be fucking fired.
Did you buy any of the
dials? I have the trackers, I have the dials, but the fact that they didn't just have that, like, and in all honesty, because you can also buy extras to track your monsters, because someone's supposed to be the monster controller, at least they track the health and stuff, but they have things for, it's one affliction or enemy card, and it's like left, up, down, right. And so you have to sit there and be like, okay, so that one's the furthest left, so that's the left one. Literally, I just quit doing that. I track.
Yeah.
Like pen
Some
and paper.
people used like D10s,
dice, yeah.
Just 2 D10s on the.
And that's probably easier than the slot, because like literally, I'm pretty sure there's been times where I accidentally bumped it, and I'm like, well, it's weaker now or something.
Well, the dials, I got some with my last all-in Kickstarter, and then I bought 2 more sets of them.
Yeah.
With this Kickstarter, just because they were $5 for 4.
Yeah, and they are. Yeah, they are cheap, so it's not that big of a complaint because there is the dials. But you shouldn't have, like, I almost feel like they came up with that shitty idea just to sell other stuff. But they redeem themselves by having every single mini have what it is on the bottom. As far as I know, no other game has done that. It's almost mind-boggling at this point because that is such a smart idea. So there has to be 2 different guys. One guy has all the brains, and then he has his dumbass intern who's like, oh yeah, we'll use... But Folklore is great. Number 2.
Yep. All right, my number 2 is an out-of-print game.
Neat.
It's football.
Okay.
Blood Bowl Team Manager.
Oh, okay.
Obviously fantasy because it's true fantasy football. Orcs and
that's funny.
Just everything. All kinds of fantasy races, and I like card games. I don't like the original Blood Bowl with the miniatures and stuff. It seems it's too finicky with places you moving your blockers.
This is the card game?
This is the card game. This is you play through a whole season in one game. And you kind of like with the baseball highlights I was telling you about. You play through your hand, and you after each set of games, then you some of your rewards may be like, okay, get this team upgrade, or you may get a player upgrade, and then they go right into your top of your deck again. Then you just turn in. So if you're a human team, you may pick up a huge orc or a dwarf, person to come all-star to come on your team that has all these powers, and it almost is kind of like Smash Up in a way. There's areas and you're battling to see who has the most power at that spot when the game's over, and you battle it out. And there's penalties so you'll put, if you cheat, you put a school cheat token on there, and then before you start tallying it up, you flip them, and some of them may give you more fans, some of them may give you more power. Some of them may be a whistle. If it's a whistle, that player's ejected and he's out.
All right.
It's got dice because you can tackle people across from you. You can kill people. You can injure them. Because if they're already knocked down and injured, if you hit them again, you could kill them.
You just kill them.
Yeah. it's just it's a really cool game. I mean, it's super fun, lighthearted. You just kind of go out there and whoop ass, and your victory points are fans. So you have the dials.
Oh, okay.
So whoever has the most fans at the end of the game
Wins.
Yep. And that's really it. I mean, it's not in print anymore since Fantasy Flight lost them and.
Seem to be losing a lot of
Kingsburg shop.
licenses lately.
Well,
They got Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Seems to be
spend all
there.
their money on those two. But yeah, it's a great if you can find it because it's not super expensive right now. But it's a really cool card game. It's one of my faves.
All right.
Sure.
Number one. Can you guess where my number one
Gloomhaven.
is? It's Gloomhaven. Like, without a doubt. I'm not going to get into it because I'm sick and tired of seeing the comments whenever you talk bad about it. Just because you have an opinion. Gloomhaven.
Do they agree with me? Or
They disagree.
They disagree.
They all disagree with you on the hand management.
Awesome.
So I'm just tired of I'm tired of them agreeing with you. No, it's just like you have an opinion, you don't like the game, that's fine.
Yep.
Like just fucking people move on. But Gloomhaven, in my opinion, is the best fantasy game that's ever been made. Not only because I love all the mechanics for it, but also because it's its own world. Like they made an actual world. Like all unique races, a unique setting. It's kind of legacy too, but not really because like you can place stickers on the map and you can upgrade your cards, but that costs a shit ton of like XP or money to actually enhance your cards. But so you'll go through this epic campaign that has so much like theme around it. Whenever you go to like Gloomhaven, you'll have a city event, and then you can do stuff in the city. You can go donate money to the church, which will give you blessings, which are times 2 cards. I love every race is completely different. How they have their own set of cards, their starting deck, and then over time you'll change out these cards. Like as you level up, you're like, but you can only ever have like one. So once you hit like level 2, you can only have one level 2, but your deck will stay the same. I love the hand management system. I think that's what makes it really, really tense. Now there is something that I will agree with you on the hand. It's not necessarily the hand management part, but it's that I think it makes sense to always play 2 whenever there's enemies. But if you kill all the enemies, you still have to play cards to move around. That makes no sense to me. So I'm probably going to house rule it to where if there's nothing, you can I'm just going to say freely move. Because thematically, the hand management is you're constantly fighting, you're doing stuff, so you're getting exhausted by doing that. But if there was no enemies, that would be a thematic reason where you can take a breather. So I'm probably going to house rule that. Still need to test it because I might make it more easier, but I don't really think so. The other one that I kind of have a complaint about is you have a specific card to loot, which I think also makes sense if there's enemies in the room because you're taking time to pick up shit while you're being attacked. But I think if there's loot and there's no enemies in the room, then you should be able to be like, okay, I'm gonna pick this up. Right. So I might also do that because money is super hard to come by. But yeah, Gloomhaven is I think it's phenomenal. I've played like 8 games just in my solo playthrough, and then I've done 6 in the community event. So that's a lot of fun. They do something that I never really follow. It's like, oh well, I can't specifically tell you what I have, but I can help a lot. Like it's really dumb. So my friend and I, we communicate back and forth. Time Stories have that other dumb rule where it's like, I have to paraphrase exactly what's here, so we talk to someone. It's fucking stupid. But yeah, I think Gloomhaven is, I mean, it's not going to be your typical fantasy, but obviously you're a fantasy race doing, spells and magic, and then there's creatures that you fight, and it's a medieval setting, so that's my best fantasy game.
Do you know what my number 1 is?
Shadows of Brimstone?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Have I played it?
Yes.
Huh. It's not a crossover?
No.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be.
Smash Up?
Nope.
Okay. No idea.
Alright. It is the definitive fantasy game. Defenders of the Realm.
Oh god, no. I mean, it is fantasy.
It is as fantasy as it can get, really, because of even with the old D&D art and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I have it there because I hope and pray that the new Kickstarter that they have uses the same card art at least, or the character. They can change the board and do whatever, but the character art.
If I had to guess, they'll change it.
It just has that.
What if they do like
D&D.
Kingsburg art? Kingsburg.
Kingsburg?
Yeah. They hire the same artist.
But well, I'll still get it because I don't have it at this point.
Yeah.
But you know, it is another kind of tower defense in a way. You are defending your central capital.
Yeah.
Against these hordes of different races coming at you all the time, and you are going out and wiping them out. It has the pandemic feel.
Yeah.
Because of taint spreading all over the place and all that crap.
Leaking everywhere.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it has. If you have all that, at least in the original, I don't know what this new Kickstarter later this year is going to be like, but if you had all the heroes, I mean, they had tons of heroes, and they were all classic heroes. And then they had like eagle riders, which look like little hobbits, and they have you know, and all these different things. Paladins, and they all had their own abilities. And they all had
druid.
Yeah, it was just so much cool stuff with this game. It's a Richard Lanius game, so you know, I mean, it's developed well. And I kicked myself. This is my biggest getting rid of. I hated that I got rid of this game because then I was like, damn it. You know?
It is really good. I think I'm excited for the for the reprint because I got rid of it as well. But it is really good.
Yeah.
I think because they also had quests that you can go on. And they had the dragon expansion, which I thought was awesome because it's 3 different types of dragons, and you actually had to go out and and instead of like the diseases and pandemic, you actually have like a target that you could go out and actually kill like a general and stuff like that. So
the thing that I hope that they do with this new one is they had Defenders of the Last Stand come out, which was kind of a flop. But the one thing about that game that I enjoyed is they brought in a little bit of story element. So I'm hoping that's what when everybody talks about Defenders of the Last Stand, it's like the story element's the best part of that game.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they find a way to.
Was that the same company?
Yeah, it's the exact same designer and everything. It was pretty much the exact same game. It was just
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, and they kind of changed it up a little bit, and it just didn't grab on. But if they could put that little bit of story element into an already great game like this, I think that would make it even. Yeah, and it's gonna explode. This Kickstarter, I have a feeling it'll
probably take off. I want an updated art because I mean, like if I were to kind of relay it to Magic, I love there's never a new Magic card that I'm like I love this art, but all the old art I'm like this is awful. And obviously art's subjective, so people love older artwork.
It just all depends on what target they're going for.
Right.
You
so
know, I mean, it's
you're right. I mean, Defenders of the Realm is a really good one. I don't have it on mine because I mean it is a really good fantasy game. It's just I don't own it.
Right.
So if I do have a question though, if Board Game Geek had fantasy and folklore, would folklore have been on your list?
It'd been number 1.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it was gonna be your number 1. So
it would have easily been my number 1.
We ended up having the crossovers I thought we were gonna have were Small World, Roleplayer. I knew for sure. Aeon's End and Folklore were the 4 that I thought.
See, I didn't know about Defenders. I didn't know if you would have that on there or not. At least I figured I thought it was gonna be on your list, but you're on mention 10 or something like that, just because of the. But yeah,
that's it, everyone. Those are our top 10 fantasy games. Let us know what fantasy games you like in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this, and if you like this video, then click the subscribe button below to enjoy any video that I put out. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. Click that so you get notified of whenever I actually upload these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.